As I mentioned, next up it's going to be Kathy. We're going to have Kathy share the spotlight with me next. So Kathy Klotz guest, oh, she is amazing. You're going to love her so much. So Kathy Klotz guest is on a mission to help leaders use humor to speak up for big ideas, connect with each other more powerfully, and create healthier, innovative culture. Kathy is an MA, an MBA, a lot more abbreviations there than I have on mine. So Kathy, MA, MBA, is a global author, a former tech communications leader, and a Second City trained comedian. Handing it over to you, Kathy. Take good care of our guests.
Thank you. Often after I'm done performing stand-up, somebody will come up to me and say, I wish I could do what you do. I don't think they mean comedy. I'm sure they don't. I think what they mean is being braver and bolder and owning their voice with confidence, because humor is brave fuel. But I don't do comedy because I'm brave. Okay, sure, just a little bit. That's how I got started. But I'm brave today because I do comedy. And over almost 25 years, it's built my courage muscle. But I wasn't always brave, because right out of college, I went into tech and I was doing comedy 6-7 nights a week on stages, improv comedy, stand-up comedy, sketch. But back in tech, I was told, if you're funny, no one will take you seriously. Don't. And as a young woman in tech who wanted to fit in, sadly, I listened. But I wasn't effective for me and for anyone around me. Now, I would go on and I would lead teams for 15 plus years in tech, very male-dominated space. The last company that I worked for had a fun little tradition you might recognize, where all the groups in the company got names. The IT guys, they were the it bros. The accountants, they were the dough bros. They came up with a name for the women in my division, Kathy and Brenda. And of course, I have a lot of jokes about being a woman in tech, naturally. They've all been explained back to me, which of course, ladies, makes us funnier. I think that's the way it works. But one day, after about 6 or 7 years of being fragmented, I remember walking into the women's restroom and I looked at myself in the mirror and I was so self-alienated. I didn't recognize myself anymore. But all of a sudden I look down and I see a 6 or 7 foot trail of toilet paper stuck to the high heel of my shoe. Dignity. So in that moment, I can't help but crack up. I am laughing and crying at the same time because I was still in there. That funny young woman was there. And that toilet paper was my trail back to my true self. Now, I made a vow looking in that mirror to reclaim all of me, all of who I was. And I did. And not everybody liked it, but I did. Because humor made me more effective for myself, and it made me more effective for all those people around me. Now, eventually I got promoted by a boss who saw my humor as the superpower that it is. And I got to say the words that so many women in tech long to say. I have 10 men under me. Yes. So let's talk about that 4-letter F word. It's not my favorite. I have a few. This one is fear, but we got to talk about it because fear is this old, unhuman story that keeps us from being who we are. And it doesn't work for anybody today. We know that. We feel it. Now, 2 years ago, I led a study for a client, a tech client, and we asked thousands of their employees globally, why is it that you don't act out bravely and boldly at work? Now, what is it you believe holds you back? And then we asked, what do you tell your boss? Because we suspected they might be different. Sure enough, they were. About 75% of respondents said that they told their boss that they're not brave and bold at work because of time constraints and conflicting priorities and all that other stuff, resource constraints. But then we asked them, what do you really believe it is? And they said, fear. Fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of being judged by my coworkers, by my boss, by everybody, by my dog, everyone. Fear of failure. And that is deep distrust. So you know what we got to do? We got to write a brave new story of courage and trust. But it's going to take a lot of courage because we have to unravel all these old narratives, especially and including humor is unprofessional, because it's not. Humor isn't just being funny. It's so much bigger. Humor reduces disconnection. It reduces distrust and fear, and it lowers fear so that we can unlock more of our natural human genius. Look, humor is lightheartedness and it's laughter. And it's a celebration of our human imperfections because perfect isn't funny. Look, it's inclusive and it lifts and it doesn't separate like a great sports bra. That's what humor is. Now, if you can laugh, you have a sense of humor. And humor isn't at odds with great work. Humor makes work better. Humor is human. It's empathy. It's truth. It's brave fuel. Look, there's 3 levels to reimagining humor at work. The first one you'll recognize, and that is humor for events, networking, fun, all those kinds of things. Well, we can turn that on its head, like I did for Twilio when I had candidates for jobs come in and play with teams that they were interviewing with. How better to know if you're a fit? That second level is humor for communication. Now, I've trained executives from Cisco, Amazon, Kaiser on how to speak with confidence and communicate big ideas. And how do we communicate big ideas in a relevant way that's approachable? Humor. Then finally, I think most importantly, that third level of reimagining humor is humor as a value. It's a strategic value, and it's baked into our DNA as humans. That's when it's in the culture's foundation. It's in the water, like at Zappos, and they do 8-hour customer service calls, not continuous, because it's baked into their DNA. Because culture is the safety net. It's how we treat each other. That affiliative piece that lifts up and doesn't separate, and it never punches down. Improv thinking is humor, and it's leadership too, because it teaches us to have each other's backs. And improv brings out our natural humor. And I've been doing improv and stand-up comedy and bringing those lessons into business for almost 25 years. Look, laughter is the single biggest predictor of happy, healthy culture. So if you don't see people laugh readily where you are and easily, don't just walk away. Run! Get out! So here's the call to action for all of us, really simply. Show up as the person for someone else that you wish they would be for you. Help celebrate somebody else's imperfections. Together we can do it. We can write a new story. Because humor and laughter are leadership lube, and successful leaders, they show up human, vulnerable, and with great humor. Look, humor isn't risky. The status quo is risky. Because humor is the future of well-being and empathy at work. And we can write this brave new story together. Because humor is brave fuel. It's a culture net that makes us braver, and it makes us bolder and better. And you don't have to be funny. You don't have to be a comedian. And then you'll be the person that people come up to and say, I wish I could do what you do. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, that was so amazing. I have so many notes. But leadership or humor and leadership, humor and laughter or leadership lube has been put into the chat multiple times. So I can't help but to comment on that. But humor does make the workplace better. I love this messaging, and I can attest to this messaging. We did not share about this when we were doing our pre-meeting, but let me tell you, as the undercover employee, multiple people would say to me, oh, you must be new here. And I'd say, why, right? And they'd say, because you're still laughing. And I thought, oh, that's telling, right? Like, we don't actually have fun here. And I was like, wow, that's telling a new employee to get out, right? It's very telling. This is so important. And I think we are developing in our workplace cultures to have a deeper appreciation of laughter at work. And I mean, this is such important messaging. If you are a meeting and event planner and you're watching this, This is such key learning. And one of the
Yeah.
things I love about you and your delivery is the fact that you are both an expert and an advocate, as are other speakers today, right? And I think both are important in order to really make a deliverable.
Yeah.
But from Second City to Stanford, you make that case of being an expert and an advocate. So thank you so much for
Absolutely.
joining
Thank
us
you.
today.
Thank you.
So thrilled that you're part of our mix-up. Now,